Yay, beautiful Staithes. So we set off and the weather was absolutely gorgeous. My husband was in tow, helping me along. As we got closer and closer to the coast, the fog started to come in. So we made it all the way to Staithes, got here nice and early, but unfortunately there's a sea fret, so we can't see much. Still looks nice though, and it's also very cold. But we'll wait till the sun comes out so we can get a decent shot. Staithes is located in a very northern position, almost in Durham. And it's also a very, very tiny town, probably the smallest one that we'll visit. But it's so pretty, and it's been a haven for artists for many a year. I've painted Staithes a few times before, and I always enjoy visiting. It's very similar to Robin Hood's Bay in the fact that it's got loads of like little snickets and little dilly holes that you can just wander around. Very, very pretty. So this is a small footbridge that leads over Staithes Beck, and if you carry around and go up, that's the Cleveland Way that you're on there. And this is when we got to the top, and this is usually an absolutely stunning view, and you can just see it with an absolute white out. So that view was useless. I did manage to get a few shots that was, it was all right. That one's a little bit better, a bit prettier. But this was the one that I'm going to be working from. I think this just sort of summed the day up. So I'm just about to start my latest Staithes painting. The image I've chosen is of two boats, which is an absolutely stunning photograph. And because in the background there's a lot of fog or sea fret, which was there on the day, I've decided to use oil paints, purely because I think if I tried to do this in gouache, I think I'd struggle, because it doesn't lend itself to blending. It's more of an opaque kind of posterish looking medium is gouache. So yeah, we're going to do some oils. And my surface that I'm working on, I've got an MDF panel which I've first primed with an oil-based primer, both front, back and sides, to make sure it's really well sealed. And then to give it a bit of a texture to the surface, which I think would lend itself well to this image, I've got some gesso, just water-based gesso, and added a little bit of, what's it called? Plaster of Paris, to try and give it a little bit of texture. So I added the plaster of Paris, mixed it together, and then just applied it to the surface. And then when it dried, it was actually a little bit too thick, so I have sanded it back a little bit, because I think I'd have just ended up with no brushes at the end of it. I'd have had a stubbly brush. And then I've just literally now just given it a wash with transparent oxide, brown, and a bit of terps, and that's the starting point. And then I'll literally just transfer that to that, and then we'll get going. Don't I make it sound easy? And believe you me, it was not. I think I kind of jinxed myself with that blasé way of talking, because I rubbed it out, started again, rubbed it out, started again. I don't know how many times, but I think I got there in the end, but it wasn't easy. So when I eventually started actually applying some paint, it was such a relief. I still had problems with the boats later on, but for now they looked okay. Although the day ended up being quite foggy, I thought it kind of lended itself quite well to this scene, as it created a little bit more drama. So I begin, as I always begin, by working from the furthest thing away from me and work forward. I'm just literally just blocking in with the local colour, just wanting to get everything covered, so I know where I kind of stand tonally. So to make sure that this is going to be dry for me to paint on the day after, I've used an alkyd white, which is a fast drying white, and I should be able to just carry on painting tomorrow rather than waiting for days for the oil paint to dry. So I just carry on blocking everything in, not using any detail. This, as I have said many times, is my favourite part. I think it's purely because you just get instant gratification when everything's covered. I'm using quite a wide bristle brush, and I'll be using this width of brush for quite a few layers, as I like the effect it gives. I don't want any detail at all, just purely just sort of blocks of shape. When you're at this stage and you just literally want to cover the canvas and make an impact, a bristle brush is the best kind of brush to use, because a bristle brush holds a lot of paint, whereas a synthetic brush doesn't. So this allows you to add a lot of colour quickly, which is what you're trying to achieve really. Ready for the next layer, which will be more detailed. So this is the second day now. Everything had dried before, and you can see the difference in the paint when you apply it the day after. It has higher impact of saturation than the previous layer, and you can start to slowly work your darks darker and your lights lighter. So as I'm painting along, I'll always look for what is the lightest part and what is the darkest part. So the sky in the right hand corner is lightest, but the boat is even lighter. So the right boat will be the one that my tonal range will go to the top of. So I will not be applying white anywhere else other than that, and maybe the sky. And then the darkest part is probably around the boats. So that is where I'll go the darkest, but you've always got to be aware as you're painting what you're heading to do, and don't reach that point too soon, otherwise your range will have gone. So this is still the second layer, and I've turned the saturation level up in the colour, as you can see, which has changed the image, how it looks instantly, but you won't get the full effect until everything is covered. So, and then when you get everything covered on your second layer, then you can start to work out, so what do I need to knock back, what do I like, so you're always evaluating where to go next. So this is the next day. Everything's dried, and I've immediately looked at the background and thought, no, that's far too dark. So I go about glazing over the top of the background with white. So I use white paint, a little bit of linseed oil, and just literally just cover the whole lot, wipe back any excess. Then I look at the sky and think that's not light enough, and there we go, and we just carry on doing this all the way through. It's like rinse, dry, repeat. So then once I've finished with the sky, then I start looking at things that touch the sky to change those as well. So as you can see, the tone between the sky and this building, there's not a lot in there, but the sky has got more blue in it and the building has got a little bit more warmth to it. So this is what I'm trying to address here, to make sure that tonally they're very similar, but one's just warm and one's just cool, to hopefully give that illusion, you know, that one's going in front of the other. This way of working layer after layer after layer, rather than just sort of blocking in and going along, you're kind of working organically, and it allows you to sort of be more expressive. And there's brush strokes underneath that you've left probably from your first brush strokes that you made, and I work this way instinctively really. It's the only way I've ever known to paint. I'm not one that's kind of likes to paint by numbers sort of style, although it's effective, but this is just my style and the way I work. So everything's coming along well. I'm quite happy where I am. This balustrade, ooh, this caused me issues. A lot of rubbing out starting again here. As you can imagine, you need a nice straight hand. No wobbly hands here, but I had plenty. So, back to the boats. I had this painting sat and I was just looking at it for ages and ages and ages, and I just really wasn't happy with the boats. They just didn't look like the boats in the photograph. So my printer had broken and I could only print in black and white, so I decided to just print them both out, sit it bang next to the canvas and just, you know, copy straight across, which really helped. They looked more like boats when I'd finished and not some sort of odd vessel. Yeah, they look seaworthy after this. And there was no escaping the railings on the bridge either, so I tackled this with my new rigger brush. Thinned the paint down a lot so this consistency was easier to work with. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's there. And then worked on all the lovely little details on the boat, which really brought the boats to life actually. They looked really very nice when I'd finished doing this, and it was just sort of added the cherry on the top, if you like. This was the last stage of the boats, adding all the ropes. There was just ropes and ropes and ropes attached to each other, attached to the ground. But these ropes seem to just link everything together. So this was the final stage in this painting, was the foreground. I didn't want to go into too much detail on the foreground. I could have painted every pebble, but I wanted the main focus to be on the boats, so that's the part that I gave the most detail to. So this is kind of, if you look at it, it's as if your eye's out of focus and you're focusing literally on the boats. It's a trick of the eye. I hope you're still with me, because I do realise this is a longer video than I normally would post, but oil paint's just such a longer process. And the finishes are totally different to that of gouache. More refined, I guess. You can do a lot more with oils than you can gouache. So I'm adding the final twinkles to the water now, and I really need to put that brush down and walk away. Put it down, Dawn. Put the brush down. Enough, enough, enough. So she's all finished. What do you reckon?